They work where the dead rest, where silence is heavy and the air never feels warm. Tonight, you'll hear 3 real stories, told by those who spend their nights among the lifeless. These aren't just ghost stories. They're experiences, whispered from the cold halls of the morgue. I've been in the body transport business for over 12 years. You know, the ones who drive the unmarked vans at night, pick up the deceased, and bring them to the morgue. Not glamorous, but necessary. I've seen everything: burns, drownings, suicides, but only once did I ever question whether someone was truly dead. And it still keeps me up. It was a rainy Tuesday night, sometime past 2 a.m., when I got the call from Street Helen's rural clinic. That place sits near the mountains, far from the city, quiet and half abandoned. A 7-year-old man had died from what was listed as respiratory complications. No family, no friends to speak of. Just a lonely death in a lonely place. I loaded up the van and drove through the foggy hills. The headlights barely pierced the mist. I remember thinking how quiet everything was, as if the whole mountain was holding its breath. The nurse who greeted me looked pale and jittery. "He's in exam room 2, she said. "Vitals flatlined over an hour ago, but I don't know. Something feels off." I shrugged it off. People get spooked working graveyard shifts, especially in places like this. Room 2 was dimly lit. The man was lying on the stretcher, a sheet pulled up to his chest. His eyes were closed. Skin pale, lips slightly blue. Classic signs. I checked the toe tag. Everything was in order, except the sheet over his chest was rising and falling slowly. I froze. I leaned in, held my breath, and watched. 1 second, nothing. 2 seconds, the chest rose again. A soft rise, like someone sleeping. I backed away and called the nurse. She came in, looked, and said, he wasn't doing that earlier. We checked again. No pulse, no reaction to light. The EKG still read flat, and yet, every 30 seconds or so, the chest rose. Just a little, like a breath. The nurse called the doctor, who confirmed time of death again. "Could be post-mortem muscle spasms," he said. "Gas movement happens sometimes. But I've seen post-mortem spasms. They don't look like this. They're sharp, twitchy. This was gentle, rhythmic, intentional. I had a job to do, so I loaded him onto the gurney and wheeled him out. The nurse refused to come with me to the van. "Sorry," she said, "but I'm not getting near that body again." The drive back took over an hour. Halfway down the mountain, it started raining harder, drumming on the roof of the van. Then, from the back, I heard it. A cough. A dry, ragged cough. Then another. I slammed the brakes and nearly drove off the road. I climbed into the back, heart racing. He was still lying there, eyes shut. Same sheet, same tag, but I swear I saw his chest rise sharply, like he was gasping for air, like he was fighting to wake up from something. And then it stopped. Back to stillness. I called my dispatcher, panicked. "Check for vitals again," he said. I did. No pulse, no breath, nothing. Just the eerie memory of movement that shouldn't happen. I was told to complete the transfer. "Bodies do strange things sometimes. Just get it here," he said. Back at the morgue, I unloaded him. The tech who received the body noticed nothing unusual. I didn't say a word. I signed the release form and left. But before I walked out, I turned to look at the cold chamber door he'd been placed into. It was slightly ajar, just a crack, and from inside, a slow exhale. I've transported hundreds of bodies since, but I never went back to that mountain clinic. And I always double check if the body is truly still. Some things don't die quietly. Some don't stay dead at all. I've worked as a mortuary assistant for 11 years. My job is to clean, dress, and prepare bodies for final viewings. I've seen every kind of death, sudden, violent, peaceful, and after a while, you stop being afraid of the dead. You're more afraid of the living. That's what I used to think anyway. Until last winter, when the Jacobs woman came in. Her name was Eleanor Jacobs, 72 years old, died of a stroke at home, found by her neighbor after 2 days. By the time she got to us, the body was already beginning to turn mild decomposition, slight marbling, but nothing I hadn't handled before. Her face was still calm, eyes closed, mouth shut, peaceful. I started with the standard procedure, cleaning, setting features, preparing for cosmetics. Everything went fine until I reached for the eye caps. Eye caps are small plastic pieces we place beneath the eyelids to keep the eyes from sinking or popping open. A normal part of prep, but when I touched her eyelid, it twitched. I froze. I must have imagined it, I told myself. Maybe just some post-mortem nerve reaction. But then the eyelid pulled back, slowly, on its own, and I saw her eye wide open. Cloudy, yes, but focused, looking right at me. I dropped the cap, stumbled back, almost knocked over the table behind me. The room was cold, but I broke into a sweat. Her other eye opened too. No muscle spasm, no twitch, just open, staring, straight at me. I should have called someone, but something about the look on her face, the stillness, the intensity kept me frozen. Then I blinked, and her eyes were closed again. I checked the body. No heartbeat, no response, no sign of life, but I couldn't bring myself to touch her again. Instead, I called my supervisor, told him I wasn't feeling well. I went home, spent the night convincing myself it had all been in my head. The next morning, I returned to finish the job. Mrs. Jacobs was already in the viewing room, dressed, makeup done. Someone else had completed the prep. I felt silly, relieved, until I looked at her in the casket. She was perfect, calm, peaceful, but her eyelids looked too tight, like whoever finished the job had to fight to keep them shut. That day, during her private family viewing, something strange happened. I was in the back room, monitoring quietly. Her son and daughter were standing over the casket, talking in low voices. Suddenly, her daughter screamed. When I ran in, they were both backing away. The daughter swore she saw their mother blink. We calmed them down, assured them it was grief, nerves, stress, all the usual explanations. But I couldn't stop thinking about those eyes. 2 nights later, I was working late, alone. Around midnight, I heard a noise from the viewing room. A soft tap. I checked the monitor. Nothing. I walked out, expecting to find a janitor or maybe a draft rattling something loose. But the viewing room was empty, except the lights were on, and the casket, which should have been gone to burial that morning, was still there. I approached slowly. The lid was half open, and inside was Mrs. Jacobs. Again, same dress, same pose, Same closed eyes. I don't remember leaning in. I just found myself there staring down at her face. And then her eyes snapped open. No delay, no twitch. Wide, direct, locked onto mine. She smiled, just barely. A twitch at the corner of her mouth. I screamed. The lights flickered. I stumbled backward and hit the floor. When I looked up, the casket was closed again, fully shut, silent. I didn't open it. I didn't go near it. I just left. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I asked my supervisor about the burial. He said it happened right on schedule. The casket was never returned. I checked the viewing room myself. Empty. No sign of Mrs. Jacobs. No sign she'd ever been there. I almost quit after that. But bills are bills. Since then, I've worked dozens more cases. Nothing strange. Nothing out of place. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the prep room late at night, I get the feeling someone's eyes are on me. And every now and then, I catch myself glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see an old woman in a blue dress, just standing there, watching. I've been a forensic pathologist for 27 years. I've performed thousands of autopsies, seen every way a body can break, burn, or rot. I don't scare easy. I don't believe in ghosts, but I avoid room 3 now, and I don't talk about what happened except once, here, to you. It started after a long shift. I'd just finished examining a triple homicide. Nasty business. My assistants had already left, and the hall was quiet. Too quiet. That sterile kind of silence where even the hum of the fridge seems loud. I was about to leave when I noticed the hallway light above room 3 flickering. Room 3 hadn't been used in months. It was reserved for overflow cases, and we hadn't had any lately. I knew for a fact it was empty. Still, the door was slightly ajar. At first, I figured maybe someone forgot to close it. I walked over, planning to shut it and go home. But as I reached for the handle, I heard something from inside. Not a voice, not even a noise exactly. More like breath. Ragged, wet breathing. I froze. For one horrible moment, I thought someone had broken in, maybe a homeless man trying to sleep, or worse. I slowly pushed the door open. The room was dim. Only the emergency light was on. And there, lying on the autopsy table in the center, was a body. A woman, mid-30s. Pale, eyes closed, no sheet. I just stood there, stunned. There was no way she was supposed to be there. I checked the tags. No ID, no file, no record in the system. Her skin was cold, but not stiff. Fresh. No lividity yet. It did make sense. I had overseen every intake that week. No untagged corpses, nothing unassigned. Then the light flickered again, and I thought briefly I saw her move. Just a twitch in her hand. A small jerk. Reflex, I told myself. Maybe electrical impulse in the muscles. It happens. But then, she took a breath. Not a twitch. Not a reflex. A breath. I backed away so fast I almost tripped. My heart was hammering. I knew what I saw. Her chest had risen. Her mouth opened just slightly. Then, nothing. I stood there for maybe a minute, holding my breath, watching. She didn't move again. I should have called someone. Security. Police. A damn priest. But I didn't. Instead, I went over and checked again. Pulse, nothing. Pupils unresponsive. No sign of life. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't entirely gone. There was something about the room too. A pressure, like the air was heavier. The corners of the room looked too dark, too deep. And then I noticed something I hadn't before. Her fingernails were cracked, broken at the edges, as if she'd been trying to claw her way out of something. I stepped back again. This time, I turned and left the room. Shut the door, didn't look back. I went home, barely slept, and came in early the next morning to log the body properly and figure out what the hell had happened. But when I got to room 3, it was empty. No body, no sheet, no record, no sign anyone had been there. I asked the night staff. No one had entered the room. No reports of anything unusual. I didn't say a word. What could I say? That a dead woman breathed in front of me and vanished overnight? That her fingers looked like they'd been digging through soil? No one would believe it. But a week later, we received a new body, found buried in a shallow grave behind a condemned building. Female, mid-30s, no ID. When I unzipped the body bag, I froze. It was her. Same face, same cracked fingernails. But this time, she was definitely dead. I ran a full autopsy. Cause of death, asphyxiation. She'd been buried alive. The case went nowhere. No suspects, no leads. She was filed as Jane Doe. We cremated her 2 days later. I kept the ashes locked away for a week before finally handing them over to the state. And I thought that was the end. But last Friday, I was working late again, just paperwork. I heard a sound, a long, slow breath from behind the door of room 3. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. But the dead don't always stay silent, and those who work with them know that better than anyone. If you want more true horror stories like this, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and remember, some rooms should never be entered alone.